President Cyril Ramaphosa has referred the Copyright Amendment Bill and Performance Protection Amendment Bill to the Constitutional Court for a constitutionality ruling. The President's requested Parliament to reconsider these bills. Section 27, representing Blind SA, filed an urgent application against Ramaphosa for failing to sign the Copyright Amendment Bill, which was challenged for infringing on the rights of blind and visually impaired persons 2 years ago. Now, this court ruled in favour of Blind SA and ordered Parliament to amend the Act by September 21st. Section 27 candidate attorney Faatima Laher joins us for more. A very good evening to you, Faatima. Thank you for your time. After Parliament's reconsideration of the bills, the President is still harbouring some concerns and has now requested a decision from the Constitutional Court. You filed an urgent application. What does it contain?
Good evening, both to you and your listeners. Thank you so much for having me. So what our application deals with is that we filed a mandatory order to the Constitutional Court, which was twofold. We are Section 27 representing Blind SA, and we have requested the President to sign the Copyright Amendment Bill. Further, and alternatively, we've requested that if the President does not sign the bill, we request that the Constitutional Court then bring in the clause 13D, which was a clause that they decided upon in our previous Constitutional Court application. And what this clause does is it amends the legislation to the extent that it discriminates against people who are blind or visually impaired, and further brings in this clause with the exception of the rest of the Copyright Amendment Act coming into play.
So let's talk a little bit about the importance and the urgency when it comes to these bills being signed and implemented, and what that opportunity presents.
Yes, so now that what we have currently is that the President has now referred the bill to the Constitutional Court. So that leaves our first declaratory order as something that we can no longer pursue and something that falls away in our application. So his decision today doesn't really affect our case, but has implications on our case. Hence, we will still be going further with our alternate relief, which is to request that the Constitutional Court amend this legislation and bring into effect this clause so that the rights of those that are visually impaired and print disabled are no longer violated. Why this Copyright Amendment Act bill coming into play is so important is because without it, South Africa cannot ratify the Marrakesh Treaty. And the Marrakesh Treaty will allow for South Africa to access platforms like Bookshare and ABC, which is the Excessive Book Consortium. And these platforms have something like 900,000 audio and braille books in accessible formats, such as audio and braille, which will then allow for people who are visually disabled and print disabled to then access. Hence, our pursuit to ensure that this piece of legislation is enacted.
What has the President, in your view, failed to do in this matter?
So, in our respect, we believe that this delay of the President's failure to enact this legislation has further discriminated against the rights of people who are blind and visually impaired. But also, if the President were to send it back to the Constitutional Court as he decided upon today, he could have done this at an earlier point, but he has left this for past the deadline of 21st September, which was the Constitutional Court deadline for him to sign the bill and have it enacted into law. So we're then going to continue pursuing our case, just because what this does is it affects the daily person who is blind or visually impaired. It affects the ability to study. It affects the ability to read for leisure. It affects the ability to go about their daily life. And this is a rights violation.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. Or perhaps before we say goodbye, where does this matter now leave this case?
We're hoping for the presidency to file papers at the Constitutional Court. We have not seen any papers being filed as yet, but we are just playing it by ear. Ours is to pursue with our urgent. Like I said earlier, the fact that we cannot compel the president to sign earlier on, that part of our application falls away, but we will pursue with the court to bring in this piece of legislation on its own, yes, with Section 172 of the Constitution.
Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. Section 27 candidate attorney Faatima Laher there speaking about President Ramaphosa and the Copyright Amendment Bill, as well as Performers Protection Amendment Bill that is around the ConCourt matter.